Hello to all the Whovians out there in the Hooniverse. I am here today to talk a bit about Doctor Who. Something I just love Doctor Who. It's just something I'm passionate about. I just love Doctor Who. It's a great show. I'm obviously a science fiction fan, but at the top of my list of science fiction is Doctor Who. Hey, probably like a lot of you people that clicked on this video, if the TARDIS pulled up at my house tomorrow, see ya. I'm gone, guys. Hey, but I know how it is. But no, yes, Doctor Who is phenomenal. It's my favorite, science fiction show, hands down. Yeah, the thought of having a TARDIS is awesome. Just would be so cool. And so yeah, hey, like I said, I've seen most of what's out there. Pretty much almost everything that's out there, I've seen it, including the Hartnell Troughton years, Pertwee, Tom Baker, then Peter Davidson, then Colin Baker, and then Sylvester McCoy, and then obviously the Millennium Special with Paul McGann as the Doctor, and then obviously the new series. So I've seen everything that's out there pretty much, except for some of Sylvester McCoy that I haven't seen, but I've seen most of it. And there's some Colin Baker episodes that I haven't seen, but Colin Baker is probably my second favorite Doctor. He's awesome. But I'm gonna go ahead and talk about my three favorite Doctors right now. Okay, so here we have my favorite Doctor, Tom Baker. Tom Baker was just so brilliant as a Doctor. He was hilarious. The thing that was so cool about him is that he was always acting like, he was always acting the fool or appearing foolish, trying to throw people off their guard and that type of thing. And then he would always like end up at the right moment. He would do the right thing, the exact right thing that needed to be done to where he saves the day or whatever. But it was so funny the way he was just like, he was constantly acting the fool, trying to like, just to put his enemies off or get them off kilter or whatever, so that they didn't see coming what he was planning. So that was one of the things that was always great about Tom. Always loved the scarf. The scarf was always funny, and the ways that he would use it and things like that was always funny. So that's my favorite one there. Okay, so this is Colin Baker. He's my second favorite Doctor. I thought he was always pretty funny. It was I liked the way he was like the arrogant Doctor, always maybe even a little bit unpredictable. Sometimes it made him fun. But the thing that really stands out for me with Colin Baker is that he was the Doctor at the time that they did Trial of a Time Lord. Trial of a Time Lord is one of the coolest episodes ever. There's a tragic story to it because it was written by one person, but the final story had to be written by other writers because unfortunately the person that was writing it passed away. It had to be finished by other writers who were not allowed to use any of his notes, his storyline notes or whatever. So they basically just tacked on an ending to it that kind of just wrapped it up. Unfortunately, we didn't get the real story, but man, it's a good one. You may remember the Great Intelligence referring to the Valyard. Well, the Valyard comes from Trial of a Time Lord. And now we see my third favorite Doctor, which would be David Tennant. David Tennant was great. He was absolutely phenomenal as the Doctor. He did a very good job. I think one of the things I like most about David Tennant is he brought his own uniqueness to the role. But he also did a lot of things that were kind of throwbacks to old Doctors, like kind of adopted little mannerisms from some of the old Doctors, that really I think worked because I saw what he was doing and I really thought it was great. There was lots of things like he would do, like when he would feign modesty. He would feign modesty in the same way that Tom Baker would. Also, like when he meets K9, when Sarah Jane brings out K9 in the episode with the school, the way he talks to K9, I mean, spot on the way that Tom Baker would talk to K9. I mean, that was so fun to see the way he was just like, he nailed it just exactly the same way that Tom Baker would talk to K9. So that was great to see, because that was one of the fun things about watching Tom Baker too, is the way he would interact with K9. Him and K9, playing chess, and K9 always winning, but whenever K9 was going to win, the doctor would do something to upset the board or whatever, and things like that. Just funny stuff. And that's he would talk to K9 in exactly the way you saw David Tennant talking to K9 in that episode. So you can see that David Tennant just has a real respect for Doctor Who. He grew up probably with it, and the fact that he was able to involve some of those aspects of old doctors into his performance, but yet still making it completely his own and unique. I think my hat's off to him. He did a great job. Hey, so if you're old school Doctor Who like me, feel free to comment below and tell me who your favorite doctors are. I'm totally interested. So anyway, I just decided, hey, I love Doctor Who so much. I think about it all the time, especially now when it's coming around. We're getting ready for the new season to start and everything. I just decided, maybe I should just do a YouTube channel and just talk about it, because hey, I have a lot of knowledge of it, so, could be fun. So anyways, I'm here today introducing myself, but kind of wanted to talk about one of my favorite moments in Doctor Who, and a lot of you may have seen it, because this episode was on Netflix before Netflix got rid of Doctor Who. It's called Ark in Space. It's a brilliant episode. It's really funny. It has the two companions in this episode are Harry Sullivan, who is a Navy doctor who works with UNIT. That's how he meets the Doctor and ends up with the Doctor. And then Sarah Jane Smith, who you all know, obviously, because she revisited in the new show. So those are the two companions, and it's really, really funny, because at the beginning of the episode, you basically see this, space station, and you see some stuff happening. And then eventually you see the TARDIS materializing on the space station, and you hear the Doctor inside saying, exclaiming, Harry, you stupid, ham-fisted, numbskull idiot, or whatever, because obviously Harry did something that he didn't like, and, the way the Doctor is, so... Anyways, they come out of the TARDIS or whatever, and mind you, Harry is completely incredulous. The Doctor told him that they were going to go inside of this box and materialize and appear somewhere else, and Harry didn't believe a word of it. So they get out of there, and Harry's just like, oh my, he's like wondering what he's looking at. He's on a space station, right? And so it's funny, and then he asks, "Where are we, Doctor?" And he goes, "Oh, not too far from where we were, actually. But it looks like we're in orbit on a space station of some sort." And Harry's just like, "Oh, what? A space station? What? How's that? That's crazy." And he's like getting all out of sorts, because this is his first trip in the TARDIS. See, it's always fun. So. And the Doctor says, "Yeah, I would imagine we're about maybe 3 or 5,000 years in your future." And Harry's like, "In my future? What?" And that's when the Doctor looks at him, and he just kind of walks up to him, and he's just like, "Well, Harry, you did give that helmet regulator quite a turn." It's so funny. Anyway, I always crack up at that bit. And then there's a part a little later on where him and Harry and the Doctor are having to outsmart the space station's security system, which is firing lasers at them, and it ends up hitting Tom Baker's big scarf. If you know who I'm talking about, Tom Baker he's the Doctor that always wore that huge draping scarf. Anyway, it got completely destroyed by the laser or whatever, and he just says, "Oh, I lost my scarf. I love that scarf. I got that scarf from Lady Nostradamus, a witty little knitter." So anyway, that episode, I just like that episode, and it actually is one of the fan favorites. When they decided to, in the 80s, when VCRs were coming out and stuff, and they decided to go ahead and start marketing Doctor Who, and releasing the episodes and selling them and stuff like that, or the stories and selling them. One of the first ones that was picked was Ark in Space. It was kind of a fan favorite. It's real. I just love it. It's a fun one. So anyways, so we're gonna, now we'll move into basically, I heard today about the John Sims coming back as the Master, which I think is great. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, I love John Sims. He was great as the Master. He did a brilliant job. No hands down. I mean, no bones to pick with him. But I am kind of like wondering about this weird thing with Doctor Who. What, where they're going to revisit with John Sims instead of when they, and we already know they've changed John Sims into Missy Master, or at least that's what Missy has said, that she is the Master. Could be some wiggle room there. If I know Moffat, there's probably a lot of wiggle room there. But anyway, so it just worries me that we're revisiting an old character, and and bringing back an old regeneration, which is fine. It's hey, I love revisiting old regenerations. Trust me. The episode they did with the 3 doctors, with William Hurt as the War Doctor, and with Matt Smith and David Tennant, that episode was brilliant. Loved that episode. And they do episodes like that in the old Doctor Who. There's 2 doctors with Patrick Troughton and Colin Baker. There's the 3 doctors with Hartnell, Troughton, and Pertwee, and then there's the 5 doctors, and then the 5 doctors is all the first 5 doctors basically. So it's interesting. It's they're cool episodes. I mean, you always love to see like different regenerations of the Doctor, mixing it up and stuff. It's fun. So I mean, I love those episodes where they do that kind of stuff and everything. But my concern is that I'm worried like somehow the show seems stuck and unable to go in certain directions, because I'm wondering about all this. As an old Doctor Who fan, I always had so much trouble trying to explain sometimes to other people about Doctor Who when I was maybe trying to get them interested in it and stuff, because it gets pretty complicated when you're trying to explain how separate regenerations of the Doctor did certain things that mattered in a certain story or whatever, and you're sitting there telling people, oh yeah, and then the 4th regeneration did, and then the 3rd regeneration, and the people are looking at you just kind of like, like, what? You would lose people because it was already kind of complicated, and now it's going to have the added dimension of being not only like talking about multiple regenerations, but also going like he, she, and talking about these regenerations. Not mad about anything about the fact that it's a gender change. What I'm worried about is how complicated it gets to talk about Doctor Who when you constantly have to be talking he, she, and when you're talking to somebody who doesn't know much about Doctor Who. So I don't know. I just see it as a more complicating factor that I don't know how necessary it really is. But that being said, I have nothing against LGBTQ community, so if they go that direction, that's fine. But these are just my thoughts, as an old fan, and remembering some of the problems that I had trying to explain Doctor Who to people back in the days before it got popular, because now it's popular, it's a little easier. So, but back in the days, it wasn't so popular. And so it was hard. It was really hard to talk to people about Doctor Who in a way that they could understand when you were trying to talk about multiple generations and Anyway, so that being said, I wonder why, Mr. Moffat, why you don't bring back some of the brilliant female Time Lords that are available. Okay, if the Master could miss the Time War, so could the Ronnie. In fact, the Ronnie, it's sad, but the actress that actually played the Ronnie, she passed last year. She passed away. Her name is Kate O'Mara. And she played the Ronnie. And the Ronnie was a great character. The Ronnie was awesome. She was a Time Lord, but she wasn't quite like the Doctor. She wasn't like a do-gooder, but she wasn't quite like the Master either. She wasn't like out for evil for its own sake, or she wasn't trying to take over the universe or anything like that. All she cared about was her science and her experiments. Now, that's where she gets a little bit wonky, because her experiments and the things that she was experimenting with and the types of things that she was doing, genetic manipulations and things like that or whatever, the Doctor could never go along with. So he would always end up having to stop her. But it was less of a... She just was less like the Master. She was just more of a... in it for her own self, and that was it. I mean, honestly, she was more willing to just like slip away and run away from the Doctor rather than try to have it out with him the way the Master would. So she was a little different, but she was fun. The Ronnie was so much fun as a kind of as a villain, and she was just like this very sexy, woman, Time Lord, but she was also the very diligent scientist, the kind of cold, calculated, let's math make most of her decisions kind of a person, So she's just that way. It's just cold and calculated, but she's not necessarily evil anyway. So that's one character that could be revisited. And like I said, it could be done in a way where you pay homage, and have like a bit of a remembrance for her, so that it, it's kind of, I don't know. I just think it would be nice. I just think it would be a nice thing anyways. But it would also be bringing back a really cool character. And she's not the only character. Romana is still out there. Romana could come back. Romana was in E-Space. I don't know if I don't know how many of you have seen the old Who that are watching this, but in the E-Space trilogy, Romana stays in E-Space, which is a separate universe from this one. Okay, so technically, she wouldn't even have gotten the call from the Time Lords, because I don't even believe she had a TARDIS. She was going to have to build her own TARDIS. Now, building her own TARDIS in a completely separate universe, is it going to get a signal from Gallifrey when they call back the Time Lords or whatever for the Time War? I don't know. I'm just saying there's a lot of wiggle room there, where there's a lot of room for Romana to come back. And these are really cool characters that could come back. And so I'm just wondering at the decision making of why they're going in the direction of taking the basically the characters they've already created and now wanting to swap the gender on those, instead of bringing in some really kick-ass female Time Lords that could very explainably be appear. I mean, the Ronnie's the type that would look out for herself. It wouldn't surprise me a bit that she went into battle, maybe it got a little hairy, or maybe after a few battles and she decided to bone out and she went and hid somewhere too. That's totally possible. I mean, she would find some way to mask herself or do whatever. So if you knew the Time in the Ronnie is one of the stories, and then I forget what the other one is, but Time in the Ronnie is one of the stories. I mean, if you see what she's like and what she gets up to, the Ronnie's a lot of fun. She's a lot of fun as a villain. She's a lot of fun as a character. She's a lot of fun as a Time Lord. So I just can't say enough that I really, really wish they would revisit some of the really cool female Time Lords that are available there in the old Who, and bring them back and kind of introduce them to the new audience. Just the way I feel about that, of course. And like I said, it's just an opinion. It's just a suggestion. I still love Doctor Who, and Doctor Who is still going to be pretty cool no matter what. But these are just thoughts that I've been having for now about a year and a half, 2 years. So when I made this video, I decided, hey, may as well voice it. So now we'll move on to the Christmas episode. I thought the Christmas episode was really good. There was a lot of little good humor in there. I thought it was interesting that they created this like superhero that's kind of it's got all of Superman's powers essentially, but looks more like Batman. So it's like all the cool powers with the cool suit, and because heroes. I mean, seriously, how cool do heroes look nowadays if they're in spandex and whatever, right? It's just not really very convincing, right? So yeah. Anyways, so now you got a guy with Superman-like powers that actually looks a bit more like Batman and tough. So anyways, so I thought that was cool, but then there was just the funny bits, like the part when he pops in on the guy when he's in like middle school or whatever, and he's going through puberty, and he's like, "Why aren't you looking at anybody? What's going on with you? Why are you looking down? Blah 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 blah." And he's like, "Oh, I can't look at anybody." He's like, "I'm going through puberty and I have X-ray vision." So you understand that he can't look at anybody because he's looking right through the. Anyways, hilarious stuff. But I thought it was a really good episode. It was a lot of fun. It was an interesting villain that they came up with there. The kind of the brains that take a host, and that was strange. I wasn't quite sure about the one that was able to pull a gun out of his head. That seemed a little maybe odd, but I don't know. Anyways, it is what it is. it was still a fun episode. It still was a lot of fun to watch, and so, not being too critical of it, but I just thought that was a little weird. So that pretty much wraps up this video, folks. Hopefully, you found it enjoyable or interesting. I also have a channel, if you're interested. It's called Erekose on Making a Murderer. I don't know if anybody here is, but if you are, you can check it out. There's a lot of information about the Stephen Avery case and Making a Murderer. So if you're interested, you can check that out. And if you found this video interesting or anything, please hit subscribe. And we'll see you next time.